My lips are parched and swollen and cracked. My tongue is dry and searches my mouth for moisture, but finds none. I lie on the burning hot sand, staring up at the cloudless sky. The glaring sun bakes down, and my eyes smart, but they do not tear, for I have not had no water for 4 days. I lie on the steaming desert badlands and I watch the buzzards circling lazily, screaming and soaring, swooping hungrily, and I wait. Come on, you lousy vultures! Come on down here and feast! Come on down here and set me free! Today's horror comic dub and narration is Carrion Death from EC Comics. I hope you enjoy. I try to remember how it all began, how I came to be lying here in the middle of nowhere, waiting for the carrion birds to drop down and sink their razor-sharp talons into flesh, and tear and rip and free me from the jaws of death. I see it now. The ribbon of the concrete stretching across the desert, sweeping beneath my speeding car wheels. He's gaining on me. I'll never make it. Beside me on the car seat, $30,000 rested in a black satchel. $30,000 for which I'd held up a bank and murdered a guard. Ahead, easy and living and woman and fancy clothes waited, smiling, beckoning, but right behind me, closing the gap between us, his siren wailing, the state trooper. You'll never get me, copper! I'll kill you first! I pressed the accelerator to the floorboards, urging my car ahead. I could see the trooper in the rear mirror, hurtling after me, taking careful aim. Just a little closer, copper. Just a little. And then, I slammed my foot on the brakes. The tires squealed along with the concrete, marking a double black line of burned rubber. I waited for the impact of the trooper and his motorcycle mashing into the rear of my car. Sucker! But the sound of metal crashing against metal and the dull thud of flesh and bones splashing against the steel never came. My car swerved, skidding onto the gravel shoulder of the road, and everything started whirling crazily as it spun over. I felt myself leave the seat, thrown forward, the steering wheel crushing against my chest. Then, I was flying upward, my head striking the car roof. As the blackness closed in, I could hear the shattering of glass and the roar of the trooper's bike as it shot past. That was all. I slipped into a world of darkness and heat, and when I opened my eyes, the car was a mass of flames and I was outside lying beside the motorcycle. The trooper was speaking to someone. Yeah, I got him. He's out cold, wrapped up his car, but I pulled him out before it caught fire. He was kneeling beside me, mic in hand. I felt a cold ring of steel around my wrist. I was handcuffed to the trooper, and he was reporting in on his two-way radio. Come on out and get us. I'll wait here for you. That's right, 16 miles south on Route 209. I was caught. Terror clawed at my racing heart. The trooper wasn't looking at me. He still thought I was out cold. It was my only chance. I recognized his car by the description. The money's been burned. Yeah, okay. See you in a few minutes. Oh, by the way, bring the master cuff key. I haven't got mine." I yanked hard and he lost his balance. He toppled over me and my free hand found his neck. His cry of surprise gurgled in his throat as my fingers closed around it. "Hey!" I rolled over on top of him, straddling him. His free hand went for his gun and I kicked. It clattered across the concrete onto the gravel. His eyes bulged and his face turned red then purple, and I held on. And then, his body went limp, and I knew I had strangled him. I started going through his pockets, looking for the key to the handcuffs. "Where is it? Blast you! Where's that key?" No key. I guess I got a little hysterical. I ripped at his clothes, cursing. I dragged him to the motorcycle and started to rifle through the side packs when I remembered what he'd said. "Oh, by the way, bring the master cuff key. I haven't got mine." "Good Lord!" I proclaimed. I was handcuffed to a corpse, and in a few moments, more cops would be there. I looked around wildly. Far down the long and straight road, a small speck appeared on the horizon. "I've got to get out of here!" I picked up the dead trooper and threw him across my shoulders. To try to use the motorcycle was out of the question. My one chance lay in making for the Badlands. I started to run. I kept running until my heart felt like someone was trying to pound their way out of my chest. My throat felt like a steel band was wrapped around it, and my legs felt like rubber. Got to make the rocks before they get there and see what happened. I kept going. The body I carried felt as though it weighed 500 pounds. My legs were numb. My clothes were soaked in perspiration. Finally, I reached the rugged, rocky section I had been heading for. I got only my knife in my pocket. It's the only way. I got to get free of him. I lay behind a rock beside the trooper's body, sucking in the hot desert air and searching my pocket for my knife. But my pockets were empty. That dirty... He must have cleaned me out while I was unconscious. And then, far back across the burning sand, back at the road, I could hear the car squealing to a stop. They'll get me for sure. I haven't got enough of a lead. I could see them getting out of their car, looking around at the smoldering wreck, the parked bike. They're not state troopers. One of them's a woman. It was the break I needed. I'd caught my breath, so I hoisted the body to my shoulders again and started off. Darkness comes fast in the Badlands. The shadows from the mountains off to the west drop down on you like a gray blanket, and the stars are suddenly twinkling overhead. I didn't sleep that first night. I kept going, carrying that corpse, stumbling in the blackness, getting up and moving on. They'll never track me now. This is real Rocky country, and they can't use bloodhounds. They have nothing to give the hounds to smell. My car burned. Finally, towards morning, I collapsed from exhaustion. I lay beside the corpse, licking my lips and tasting the salty sweat, and suddenly, I wanted a drink. I wanted a drink in the worst way. And I knew if I didn't do something fast, I'd die of thirst out there. I've got to get free of this blasted body somehow. The sun came up in all its blazing fury and baked down on the rocks and sand. I pulled and tugged, trying to wrench the cuffs from the corpse, now growing rigid from rigor mortis. It's no use! I've got to cut myself away! And then, his gleaming badge caught the sun's reflection and sent it streaming into my eyes. I giggled, ripping it from his uniform. Of course! His badge! I'll just sharpen it on this nearby rock. Once, when I was a kid, I went down to the stockyards to a slaughterhouse and watched them slaughter a lamb and skin it. It made me sick, as the sharpened badge slit the white flesh, revealing the red, slimy muscles and tendons. I got sick again, just like that time so long ago. The badge dropped from my hand, clattered to the rocky ground, and skidded down into a crevice. When I was finished emptying my guts of the last drop of liquid left in them, I realized what had happened. My one chance! Gone! I can't reach it. And then, they were overhead. The buzzards. They soared and circled, scarcely moving their wings. Their hungry screams echoed from rock to rock, summoning more. Good Lord! I started to run, dragging the body, falling, getting up, but they stayed above me, circling, their screeches laughing at me. Oh Lord, what'll I do? What'll I do? I kept going until I couldn't go on any further. My wrist bled where the handcuffs had torn the flesh. My lips were dry. Everything started spinning. I slipped to the ground, and as the blackness closed in, the screams seemed to come down out of the hot air down toward me. When I came to, I was shivering from the cold. It was night again. Beside me, the corpse lay rigid, and black shadows crouched upon it. I screamed. Ah! The buzzards! They took up the course, their wings beating up into the blackness. They circled above me, frightened off by my cry. They choke. They were feeding on him. I retched, but there was nothing in me to heave. I lay back shivering and perspiring, listening to the screams and the flapping of huge wings. They'll come back. If I go to sleep, I can't let them come back. I've got to stay awake. The night crawled by and dawn came, and once more the sun leaped into the cloudless sky and burned down upon me, and the stench of the partially eaten body I was handcuffed to seared my dust-filled nostrils. If I could find a cabin, a prospector's, or a miner's with a knife. I lifted the partially eaten body and staggered on, searching, listening, but only the sounds I heard were the cries of the carrion birds over my head. By nightfall, my lips were cracked, and my tongue was swollen as I perspired no longer. I'll die if I don't get free from him. I'll die. I was weak and dizzy, and I had to fight to keep awake, to keep those horrible creatures away. And then I thought of my own chance, my one desperate chance to save myself. The buzzards! They could save me. They don't eat live flesh, only dead. They could free me. And as dawn of the fourth day broke, I lay on the hot, burning sand, staring up at the cloudless sky, watching the buzzards, circling lazily, screaming and soaring, swooping hungrily, and I waited. "Come on, you lousy vultures! Come on down here and feast! Come on down here and set me free!" The glaring sun bakes down, and my eyes smart, but they do not tear, for I have no water for 4 days. I wait and watch, and then one of them drops toward me. Do not move. I do not dare. I do not want them to scare off again. I close my eyes, listening to the beating of wings as the others come down. I listen to them, tearing and squealing and fighting among themselves as they gorge upon the dead flesh. And I wait. I wait and listen to the tearing and the pulling and screeching and soft munching. And then I look. Oh my lord! The corpse beside me is practically stripped clean, but I feel no nausea. I feel no revulsion. Not even when I see the hulking shadow on my own chest, tearing and ripping and squealing. No, no! And I feel no pain as the vice-like jaws of the raw-necked vulture close upon my flesh and peel it from my bones. I cannot move. I cannot stop them. I can only watch in silent horror as they feed upon me. I can only watch until one of them plucks my eyeballs from my skull, or I am dead. Everyone, thank you so much for listening. I'd like to give a special thanks to my patrons and members: Sarah to Jesus, Motosurf, Leo, Dason Animus, and Alleyway. Thank you so much for watching the video, and remember, you're important and you matter. Have a great night, everyone. Goodbye.